David, feel free to start at any time.
Great. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining the 12th in a series of webinars hosted by Uniting the Central Coast for Action, a program of the San Luis Obispo Climate Coalition. These webinars are focused on informing and inspiring local clean energy development and resilience. The recordings of prior webinars are available to watch on our website. That's sloclimatecoalition.org. I'm David. I'm your moderator for today. My teammates and I are excited to bring you today's program, which will examine how some of our state's community choice aggregators are charging ahead with their programs to help electrify our rides. Before we start, we are going to hear from our presenters first, then have a Q&A session at the end. So during the presentations, please enter your questions for our speakers into the regular chat stream, not the separate Q&A feature in Zoom, but the regular chat stream. I will later direct those questions to one or more of our speakers in that last session. If we can't get to all the questions, we will seek to answer any remaining in writing afterwards. The SLO Climate Coalition deeply appreciates the support of our partner organizations, which helped promote this webinar. We continue working with our partners and with you and our audience to further the transition to clean energy and develop resilience in our communities. Please share your feedback on this webinar, as well as suggestions for subjects you want to hear more about in the future. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our first two speakers, both of whom are College Corp Fellows working with the Uniting for the Central Coast for Action. First is Maya Petrovich. She is a fourth-year student at Cal Poly studying environmental management and protection with a minor in psychology. Through her College Corp Fellowship, she is gaining practical experience to help launch a career in sustainability while positively contributing to her community. Riley Chase is a third-year student at Cal Poly studying environmental management and protection. She is engaging in College Corp projects that align with her dedication to climate action, and she is interested in a career in sustainability and environmental sciences. Please join me in a huge shout out for them both. Their hard work and dedication are what made today's webinar possible. Thank you. And now the two of you have the floor.
Thanks, David. Hi, everybody. I'm Maya Petrovich.
And I'm Riley Chase.
And we are delighted to have this opportunity to share some of the work that we've been doing over the course of the last couple of months. Before we get started, here is an outline of how this webinar is going to unfold. We will briefly introduce the scope of our research, and then we'll delve into some key findings of the 7 focus areas that we use to analyze the programs. This includes incentives for EVs, home chargers and charging, incentives for charging networks, workplace and multifamily charging, incentives for low-income and disadvantaged communities, programs for fleets and buses, and plans for V2G. After that, we will have 3 guest speakers from 3 different CCAs share some exciting and unique programs that they have going on. And following that, as David mentioned, there will be a Q&A session where we and the speakers will be able to answer any questions that you might have. So the purpose of this project was to survey current EV and EV charging programs of 12 different community choice aggregations. These community choice aggregations, which we'll refer to as CCAs, were deliberately chosen to represent a diverse spread with some of the oldest, newest, largest, and smallest CCAs spanning from San Diego to the Redwood Coast.
The methodology for this project encompassed surveying CCA websites, emailing questionnaires, conducting interviews with CCA representatives, and having them review our data for accuracy. While looking at different CCAs, we decided that the best way to holistically evaluate their EV and EV charging efforts was to analyze 7 different aspects, which we will call our focus areas. With this approach, we've compiled comprehensive data of how CCAs are charging ahead to help their customers electrify their rides. The goal of this project was to gauge the impact that each CCA has on its community, to document effective practices, and ultimately accelerate the sharing and adoption of innovative EV and EV charging programs. We just want to give a big thank you to all the CCA representatives for their time and collaboration and help in making this project possible. On the screen here are some acronyms that we will frequently refer to. We know that this is a lot to keep track of, so we've made an infographic with all the acronyms we're using for the CCAs as well as other ones. And the link is in the chat for you now. So if you click on that, you'll be able to see that infographic.
So the first aspect that we looked at were the incentives that CCAs provide to their customers for EVs. 3 out of the 12 CCAs that we looked at currently offer their customers direct rebates for the purchase of an electric vehicle. Those are 3CE, PCE, and MCE, which you can see on the table. Marin Clean Energy is highlighted in green here because its programs stand out from the other 11 CCAs in a unique way, which is that all the rebates and incentives that they provide are exclusively offered to their low-income customers. We looked at some awesome programs that the rest of the CCAs had in the past, but in this report, we specifically focused on currently active programs, which is why those programs aren't listed on the screen. The second aspect that we looked at were home charging and charger incentives that CCAs provided to their customers. 3 out of the 12 CCAs in our studies offer their customer rebate incentives for purchasing and installing home chargers, but we also found a range of incentives that came in other forms, including things like smart charging apps, partnerships, and rewards programs. Cal EVIP is an example of a partnership that most CCAs have with the California Energy Commission, which we'll refer to as the CEC. Through Cal EVIP, the CEC funds programs that distribute incentives for EV and EV infrastructure adoption across California.
The third aspect that we analyzed were incentives for commercial charging networks. So 7 of the 12 CCAs that we surveyed offered some form of incentive for commercial charging networks. These varied from technical assistance in the form of concierge services to rebates for chargers and installation projects. The table on the screen shows the rebates provided by 3CE, CPA, CPSF, and MCE. Additionally, PCE, SJCE, and SVCE all had projects in partnerships with Cal EVIP to promote commercial charging. These rebates differed in values for level 2 and level 3 direct current fast chargers. DCFC is how we'll refer to that. And these are 2 different EV chargers based on their voltages. So level 2 chargers, which are lower voltage, offer slower charging speeds more suitable for overnight or daytime charging in residential, workplace, or commercial settings. And then level 3 DCFC provide faster charging rates at a higher voltage, primarily for rapid charging along highways or major travel routes. So these rebates ranged from $3,000 to $8,000 for level 2 chargers and up to $100,000 for level 3 DCFC. And then additional value is available for electric vehicle supply equipment and infrastructure upgrades. And electric vehicle supply equipment, or EVSE, is the infrastructure and hardware used to charge electric vehicles more than just the charger itself. And next we have charging for multifamily housing sites. So the majority of CCAs we looked at offered some form of multifamily housing charging incentive. The most common incentives were rebates for level 2 chargers, many of which also provide technical support for planning and implementation in an attempt to increase accessibility for multifamily property managers and ease the planning and implementation process for them. These level 2 incentives mainly came in 2 forms of rebates, and those were either rebates specifically designed for multifamily properties or additional funding on top of already existing charging rebates.
So the fifth element that we evaluated was incentives specifically for low-income and disadvantaged community customers. Common incentives that we saw CCAs implementing included increased rebates on the basis of care and FARA eligibility or specified income bracket eligibility, and vouchers for purchasing EVs. Something that's unique to this project is that by collaborating with CCA representatives, we were able to compile data on the efficacy of a lot of the low-income EV and EV charging programs. An example of this kind of data is shown on the chart on the screen. As you can see, 45% of all the money that 3CE gave out to its customers went to their low-income customers in 2022. For a more extensive overview of this efficacy data, you can click on the link in the chat to see the infographic that we put together, which also reflects this data and what we found. So most of the CCAs partnered with Cal EVIP, whose programs already include an increased rebate amount for low-income people. And only 3 out of the 12 CCAs currently provide their customers with additional monetary incentives for low income, separate from what Cal EVIP encompasses. As mentioned previously, Cal EVIP is a CEC-funded program that CCAs can partner with to make more EV and EV charging incentives available to their customers. The Center for Sustainable Energy oversees the Cal EVIP program, managing both its implementation and fund distribution process. The Center for Sustainable Energy is thus the sole entity responsible for determining how much CEC funding will be designated to low-income and disadvantaged communities across all Cal EVIP programs. I just wanted to highlight here that the amount of reserved funds for low-income and disadvantaged communities under Cal EVIP is not a reflection of CCA initiative, but a management decision made by the Center for Sustainable Energy. Some CCAs have partnered with Cal EVIP to contribute additional funding to the rebate programs that their customers can take advantage of. And by doing this, CCAs are able to specify what they want that funding to go towards within the Cal EVIP program. So for example, if they want to add $4,000 to the pool of CEC money allocated to their customers, they can target that funding exclusively for level 2 chargers, or 30% of it for level 2 chargers and 70% of it for DCFC chargers. So the benefit here is that they make more money available to their customers and can stipulate how that extra funding is distributed within their service areas if they want to.
As far as programs for fleets and buses, our findings were limited. While several CCAs seem to include them in future planning, currently only 3 CCAs offer any form of fleet or bus program. 3CE's rebate program, which offers up to $150,000 rebate based on the class of EV that is purchased, is the only rebate currently available for fleets and buses. However, PCE and AVA offer comprehensive technical support through their replacement and transition plans. These plans offer a wide range of assistance, including aid with regulatory compliance, rebate and incentive applications, and determining vehicle and power needs for a fleet. PCE also offers energy optimization plans and an optional energy management service for fleets. Our final category was vehicle to grid, or V2G, which is a technology that allows EVs to not only draw electricity from the grid for charging, but also to return excess electricity back to the grid when it is needed to help balance the supply and demand of electricity on the grid. So we weren't able to find a lot of information on V2G on any of the CCA websites, but after interviewing representatives from each CCA, it seems that there is a CCA-wide consensus that V2G is currently too expensive, the tech is too unknown, and most are focusing their resources on other areas currently. However, CCA representatives did convey that they are keeping a careful eye on the technology and are open to implementing it in the future if it becomes easier and the technology is explored a little better. So that is a brief overview of the findings of our research. Further details and information can be found in our upcoming report. Information on how to access the report will be available through UCCA in the coming weeks.
Without further ado, I would like to introduce our first CCA representative, Paige Callahan. She is an energy programs analyst at 3CE, focused on transportation and agricultural electrification programs. She also works on several strategic initiatives, including leading the annual programs portfolio evaluation and exploring new avenues to expand equitable electrification. Please welcome Paige.
Great. Hi, everyone. It's super great to be here. I'm really excited to present on some of the work that 3CE is doing. I think if it's okay, I'm going to share my screen and just show my own slides.
I'm sorry, I thought I stopped sharing. I apologize.
Oh, no, that's totally okay. Okay. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, great. Sorry, everyone. Okay. The Thank you, Maya, for that introduction. My name is Paige Callahan. As Maya mentioned, I'm an energy programs analyst here at 3CE, and I'm really excited to be here today to present on our efforts to electrify the Central Coast through community outreach and participation efforts in our transportation electrification space. So I'll first discuss a brief intro to 3CE and what we do, followed by an overview of Electrify Your Ride as our flagship program. I'll then go into our outreach and engagement strategies to help ensure enhanced customer participation across our programs, followed by a discussion about our analytical approaches to improve outreach and program design. I'll close with the way forward and some next steps that 3CE is implementing to improve our program participation with some conclusions as well. So 3CE was founded in 2018 and now serves 33 member agencies across our 5 counties on the Central Coast. We have approximately 450,000 enrolled customers, whereby this number is expected to grow with the addition of unincorporated SLO County and the city of Atascadero in early 2025. 3CE's energy programs are designed to evoke meaningful decarbonization and climate action, giving all enrolled customers an opportunity to partake in the fight against climate change through electrification and having a say on the energy that we procure. We have a commitment to fair rates and programs that meet the needs of our communities, along with an outreach strategy that helps meet communities where they're at. And finally, we've placed a renewed focus on equity in program design, access, and in our participation indicators, focusing specifically on the impact of energy equity and soon energy burden as well. Our programs cover 5 key areas in the electrification space: building electrification, our transportation electrification, which we also provide electric bus rebates. In the agricultural electrification space, we provide rebates for tractors and both small and large ag equipment. We also provide programs for our member agency services. And finally, general support, such as technical assistance for electrification infrastructure upgrades and broadband assistance. Now, Electrify Your Ride is 3CE's flagship program. It launched in 2020 and to date has over $7 million in incentives given out to over 4,500 customers. This number is expected to grow as we've already seen record participation for this program in fiscal year 2023 to 2024. We offer additional incentives to income qualified applicants through verification of the CARE Ferris status, as well as tax verification based on household income and household size. So some of the rebates we offer include those for the purchase or lease of new and used EVs, and this can be up to $4,000 for income qualified applicants. For EV chargers, we offer up to $700 for income qualified applicants, as well as $4,000 to help install panel upgrades and other upgrades to ensure that your EV charger will work in your home and is safe and effective. We also offer incentives for our multifamily and commercial properties up to $20,000 per site. And most recently, we launched a DCFC or direct current fast charger available to both commercial and agricultural properties, which is a very exciting launch this past January. Now, I included this bit.ly link here on the bottom if you'd like to type it in now and kind of scroll through the site as I follow through this presentation. Electrify Your Ride prides itself on simplicity in the application process, the required documents, and rebate delivery, as this is key to a successful program that is as accessible as possible to all of our customers. While we have Spanish applications available for in-person and mailed-in apps, a multilingual integration to the online application will be available very soon in an effort to ensure language accessibility and language equity in our program space. So there are 3 basic steps to this stackable EV rebate. Once an applicant submits proof of purchase or lease, as well as a registration card and a driver's license, 3CE employees will verify the enrollment status and the eligibility of the vehicle documents. And once approved, applicants will receive an email confirming this approved app and then receive a check 45 days later. It's that easy. All enrolled customers are eligible for 1 Electrify Your Ride rebate, so 1 of the chargers, 1 of the cars, and the panel upgrades once per year. And And because of this relatively simple application process, last year we saw over 1,700 applicants receive incentives and spent $3.7 million, or 91% of the allocated $4.1 million budget. Now, these projects were larger carbon-intensive fuel switching projects, so we saw an approximate avoidance of 3,200 metric tons of CO2. When looking at DMV data, we saw that 3CE rebates influenced approximately 10% of all EV purchases within our service territory, and 30% of the applicants for this program were income qualified. Of this 30%, 391 applicants held CARE FARA status, which averages about 0.44% of all CARE FARA customers. Now, how do we do this? How do we ensure that over 1,700 people each year can help access our rebates? It's largely thanks to our outreach, marketing, and communications team that employ focused and targeted strategies together. A three-pronged approach is employed through community engagement, customer service and education, and finally, marketing and communications. In community engagement, 3CE engaged with 44 local organizations and attended over 200 events in fiscal year 2022-2023. We conduct regular webinars, focus groups, and presentations tailored to our diverse customer needs, including bilingual education efforts and those specifically targeted for agricultural workers. We've allocated $1.6 million annually with targeted online print and radio promotions, emphasizing our energy programs that have specific budget allocations to ensure that the programs are targeted towards those who would most benefit, such as the school bus system going to our transit agencies, agricultural transport buses, and public schools. Now, seeing this coordinated approach at work, last year we reached over 400 individuals across 14 farm worker events, predominantly in Salinas, Watsonville, and Santa Maria. These events were facilitated by winning a radio contest on a Spanish-speaking radio show, whereby 3CE sponsored a lunch and learn about 3CE's programs right at the agricultural site. We support local initiatives such as farmers markets, community workshops, and regional events to enhance awareness and program visibility. While in the strategic partnerships, we collaborated with organizations such as chambers of commerce and youth centers to reach Hispanic residents in our underinvested communities. We've also engaged in bilingual events and other sponsorships to connect with Spanish-speaking communities to help promote program accessibility. Now, while these strategies have been working to see a really high performance and continued growth of our programs, we want to continue to improve and refine the way we can analyze both our program participation, design, and outreach strategies. And normalizing participation data allows for this more refined analysis. We also want to use additional multifaceted indicators beyond income that will help target our outreach strategies informed through culturally competent ways. So this can include language barriers, energy burden, and areas with poor air quality to consider these factors as well. Now, looking at the map on the right, we see a geographic information system, or GIS map, and here we've overlaid EYR, or electrify your ride participation, with poverty percentiles. And so this helps us understand which areas have high participation relative to their poverty percentiles. It also helps us identify areas that may be facing additional barriers to electrification beyond cost alone, such as infrastructure availability. Additional analytical improvements can also include improving our website tracking and usage, as well as exploring the connections between ad spending and program application hotspots, which would also benefit from a GIS analysis. Considering these analytical approaches and current strategies altogether, we want to continue increasing EV adoption within our service territory by evaluating our charging infrastructure gaps and affordability barriers in our underinvested communities through these data-driven approaches. As I mentioned earlier, energy burden will become a big focus of ours as we help to address or create programs that may be less capitally intensive. For an equity-driven approach in all that we do, we want to implement multilingual surveys and focus groups to identify and address barriers to participation. This will occur largely through our priority communities outreach and engagement update, whereby we'll be conducting focus groups to better understand barriers to program accessibility, and other ways we can better support these communities starting in a few weeks. As we collaborate with other agencies to set specific and measurable goals for customer engagement, we'd like to utilize regular feedback mechanisms from the community in several different languages to better ensure that our goals are reflective of the communities we serve. And finally, we want to strengthen our partnerships with the community organizations within our service territory to develop targeted messaging with trusted people in our communities. All in all, 3CE wants to continue to offer flexible programs in the transportation space and beyond that meet the needs of all of our eligible customer types. We want to focus on increased accessibility, workforce development opportunities, and targeted outreach through these meaningful CBO partnerships, ensuring that we meet communities where they're at. 3CE will commit to innovation, our regulatory engagement, and community feedback for effective, adaptable, and equitable electrification initiatives in a dynamic energy landscape, ultimately ensuring that customers across our service territory have equitable opportunity to partake in electrification and have a choice in their energy. And with that, thank you so much for listening to my presentation, and I look forward to your questions at the end of the presentation.
Thanks, Paige. That was awesome. It was really interesting to hear from what 3C is doing. So yeah, we appreciate you sharing. Next up, we will be having Melanie Biesecker present. She is a customer programs manager working on transportation, electrification at MCE. She oversees the EV Instant Rebate and MCE Sync programs, advancing adoption of EVs and smarter, cleaner charging. Welcome, Melanie.
Thank you. Can you see my screen and hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, let me get everyone's faces off my screen. As beautiful as you all are. Well, good morning. My name is Melanie Biesecker, and as you heard, I'm a customer programs manager for MCE, and I oversee transportation electrification programs, including MCE EV Instant Rebates and MCE Sync, which I'll be talking about today. MCE is a public not-for-profit electricity provider with a mission to confront the climate crisis by eliminating fossil fuel greenhouse gas emissions, producing renewable energy, and creating equitable community benefits. Our vision is to lead California to an equitable, clean, affordable, and reliable energy economy by serving as a model for community-based renewable energy, energy efficiency, and cutting-edge clean tech products and programs. MCE serves 37 member communities across 4 Bay Area counties, which includes 1.5 million or more customers. MCE offers several transportation electrification programs, which includes workplace and multifamily charging. I won't be talking about those today, but I'm going to be focusing on our EV Instant Rebates and smart charging app, MCE Sync. Since 2019, MCE has provided EV rebates for income qualified customers. As of May of last year, MCE began offering EV rebates at point of sale using the self-attestation model, which has simplified the process and helped address barriers to participation. The program offers eligible customers up to $3,500 for the purchase or lease of a new or used plug-in electric vehicle at the time of purchase. The rebates are stackable with other incentives for more savings. And since the launch, we're successfully meeting our goal of increasing EV adoption by lowering costs and providing education to both customers and to car dealerships, which we have found is really important. The program also offers participating dealerships or an incentive of up to $200 for EV sales through the program. So the way that it works, there is no pre-purchase application or approval. A customer just goes into a participating dealership and selects the vehicle that they would like to purchase or lease. The dealer will verify their eligibility on the spot and apply the discount off the purchase price at the point of sale. The dealership then submits for reimbursement, and it's typically a 2-week or less turnaround time. If I think we have over 50 participating dealerships at this time, and are continuing to add more. If there are dealerships that aren't already participating, a customer can reach out to the program and let us know, and our team will connect with that dealership and try to get them enrolled. So here we have the eligibility. To be eligible for this program, you must be an MCE customer located in our service area, purchase or lease a qualifying new or used EV or plug-in hybrid. Basically, it's anything that plugs in. Keep the EV for at least 24 consecutive months after the purchase or the lease, and then register with the DMV at the address associated with the MCE account. And the customer must also meet income guidelines or be enrolled in one of the qualifying programs to the right. And this table here has been updated with the 2024 federal poverty level, and income qualification for this program is 400% FPL. On the screen here, you can see we do have outreach materials available in both English and Spanish. They're available on our website. I included the link, and I can also put that in the chat after my presentation. But we would love for anyone to help us share this program with eligible folks. And I want to move on and talk a little bit about MCE Sync. So here on the screen, you can see a graph that shows data showing the shift where customers are saving money and also reducing grid emissions to shift and shape EV load away from the 4 to 9 peak when electricity costs are high. So on the left is the baseline, and on the right is smart charging. EV ownership in MCE service area is among the highest in the nation at 5%. And this offers a perfect test market for innovative vehicle to grid, which or VGI technologies that shift load toward those low cost hours when there's more renewables on the grid, and helping with grid resiliency from outages during critical periods. We are continuing to influence charging behavior and optimize load from EV charging, maximizing benefits to our MCE customers, to MCE, the grid, and society as a whole. On average, 80% of EV charging happens at home, with every EV adding around 50% to a resident's overall electricity usage. So as the EV market continues to grow, the importance of smart charging is going to be more significant. So enter MCE Sync. MCE Sync is an EV smart charging app that launched in fall of 2021. It manages, helps to automate home EV charging to use the least expensive and cleanest energy on the grid. It offers a $50 sign-up bonus for customers who enroll, and up to $10 per month cash back for participating in events. Customers using this app have saved more than $100 per year just by charging off-peak. And it is compatible with home solar without any additional hardware, and works with most EV makes and models. Eligibility for this program also requires that you are an MCE customer living in an MCE service area, have a compatible EV or charger. At this point, most vehicles and chargers are compatible, although there are some that we're still working to integrate. And eligibility also includes that you must be enrolled in any residential electricity rate plan, although greater bill savings can be seen for an EV on time of use plan. And again, here we do have outreach materials available in English and Spanish, and there is a QR code to the right. If anybody wants to learn more about the program, you can also reach out to me at any time. Thank you so much for letting me share a little bit about, oops, we don't want to play this video. Pause. Thank you for letting me share a little bit about MCE Sync and EV Instant Rebates.
Thank you so much, Melanie, for sharing. That was super interesting information to hear about. Our final presenter now is Brant Arthur. Brant is a program manager for Sonoma Clean Power. He works with customers and colleagues to build sustainable transportation services for everyone. His projects include a community needs assessment focused on transportation and mobility, and working with customers to install workplace charging as a part of their research project. So here is Brant.
Fantastic. It's really inspiring to hear everyone's doing. I'll just, I'm really going to focus just on one of our offers today, but Sonoma Clean Power we're the public power provider serving Sonoma and Mendocino counties. We serve about 500,000 people. We are the only power provider in California offering 100% local renewable electricity 24 hours per day, every day of the year, which is amazing. Part of it is having the largest producing geothermal field in our backyard. And we have a number of EV programs. I think we started back in 2016. We had a kind of a bulk purchase and rebate program for residential customers, and we've kind of since pivoted more towards charging. We still have a residential charger program for level 2 chargers, a smart charger program that's similar to what, very similar to what Melanie is doing with MCE. And we have a Cali VIP program, a nonprofit EV rebate. And we just launched an e-bike commuter grant to help workplaces get their employees to use e-bikes for commuting. But today I'm talking about workplace charging. So this is something that we think really fits with how we see EV adoption going forward. The goal is really to provide reliable and affordable charging at more locations. And we think that the workplace is a great fit for that. We've seen EV adoption growing among renters at our office. So we we offer charging at our workplace from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Every spot in our parking lot has a charger. And yeah, folks who are renters have been able to get an EV that way. There's data from the EPA that employees with workplace charging are 6 times more likely to drive EVs. And we think it's really essential for people who, don't have a home charging option. It can be expensive, to install charging at multifamily housing, and probably that needs to ultimately happen. We think that this can be a really good stopgap. And most importantly, it helps move that charging, as Melanie was talking about, kind of the overnight charging peaks and getting that into, spreading that out. So by having workplace charging, it allows folks to charge during the middle of the day when we have the abundance of solar power. So that really, helps use more renewables to charge power or charge EVs overnight. There is just more gas peaker plants, things like that running, and increases our grid reliability. So this is a workplace charging site that was constructed through our Cali VIP program. We're trying to figure out how can we do this more effectively for more workplaces. So right now we're working with 4 sites to construct up to 20 connectors per site, and offering them technical assistance and a $5,000 per connector rebate. And also looking at things like, testing dispatch strategies. So how can we manage charging to be better for the grid? We are currently doing a community needs assessment, and we found that we looked at different groups of people who maybe were opposed to EVs, people who had EV intentions, and people who were kind of soon to be EV owners. And we found that, in our survey, just 11% of the soon to be EV owners had access to workplace charging. And then we know that people don't get an EV until they know, where they're going to charge it on day one. So we think that could, really fill a gap for soon to be EV owners, which is a lot of people. In terms of where we are right now, we've conducted, about, I think, 7 assessments, and we're moving forward with the first one. We think we're gonna have 4 on board. This is assessing one of the sites, looking at their panel. It's really fun to go around to sites and look at their utility cabinets and understand how things work. We found that companies with sustainability plans have budgets for things like this and are more willing to move forward. And we think that probably going. Are we good? I'm almost done. And so we think that having kind of a no upfront cost solution is really going to be needed long term. Like with everything, costs have just been higher. And one of the things we're trying to take advantage of too is the IRS has the alternative fuel vehicle refueling property credit. So it's a 30% tax credit for the installation of charging that can help kind of stack with a $5,000 credit rebate, sorry. And we found that like often communities that have a higher amount of multifamily housing, have higher needs, that disadvantaged and low-income communities, they have historically received less funding for things like the California EV rebates that have been available. So this is, part of using the credits that are out there to benefit these communities. And that's it for me. I look forward to any questions.
Thank you so much, Brant.
Yes, thank you. I will start directing some questions at you. And the first one I think I would like to have all 3 of you respond to in maybe the same order that you spoke. And that question has to go towards any incentives for EVs or PHEVs, the plug-in hybrids. Are there any limits to what models that could be applied to, be it foreign versus domestic? Is there a minimum range on the plug-in hybrids, or however you might be slicing that?
Yeah, I can go first. So 3CE tries to keep it as broad as possible. The model just has to be 2015 or newer to be able to work with a lot of the newer charging infrastructure that's coming out. And super exciting, but in a couple weeks, we're going to be launching a tool that we helped fund, which will help people find all the different makes and models that are eligible for 3CE rebates for electrify rides. So keep an eye out for that program that's coming out soon.
Could you repeat?
Yeah, the question has to do with EV or plug-in hybrid electric vehicles incentives. Are there any limits, caveats, requirements, if you will, to what kind of models or what kind of vehicles that can be applied to? Again, be it domestic versus internationally manufactured, or is there a minimum range, say on the plug-in hybrid, things like that?
Yeah, I can say for SCP, for a nonprofit EV rebate, it's eligible for any vehicles that have at least 25 miles of range, so that would be a plug-in hybrid. I think that's probably all plug-in hybrids at this point. So, we can probably move it up, but.
Yeah, and for MCE, it is pretty much all plug-in vehicles. We do have a link on our website that lists out the different vehicles, and we update it regularly with as the I believe the EPA updates their list. So basically, if it plugs in, it should be eligible.
Great. The next question's for you as well, Melanie. I think you might have replied to it in the chat stream, but if you don't mind repeating it verbally as well, and that is, how is the dealer able to verify income at the point of sale?
Yeah, so we, as part of the point of sale model, we use self-attestation for income. So the dealer will present the customer with the eligibility requirements and ask them if they meet those requirements. And if they do, then the customer will sign a self-attestation form stating that they are eligible. Which is quite different than other incentive models where you apply ahead of time, go through a rigorous process to verify your income, which takes time, and has proven to be a barrier for people participating in these types of programs.
Next question has to do with the panel upgrade bonus. And are there any technical requirements for those panels or other restrictions on what kind of upgrade panels can be covered as part of that bonus?
Yeah, I can speak really quickly to that. Again, we try to be as accessible as possible and really kind of leave it up to the contractors that people hire to install them. So when we see the invoices from the contractors, and we just assume that it's correct because they're a legitimate contractor. So we don't do any like further verification or anything as long as they have a permit to install it and is with a verified company, you're good to go.
Great, thank you. Question for any one or all of you. What are the major issues have you run into on these EV incentive programs, be it on the dealership for that specific program or customer side as well? Challenges or issues?
I put some comments in the chat related to that question, and I think one of the things that we continue to see is it's confusing for customers and also for dealers. What programs are out there? What are people eligible for? What are the requirements? Do you apply ahead of time? Do you apply at point of sale? So stackability is really important for making sure that customers can get the most savings to purchase a vehicle, but it can be challenging to navigate. So, and the same goes for dealerships and understanding how to stack those programs at their sites and how to advise customers. I will say that all of the EV incentive programs do have support to help people answer those questions and find those things, but it's just making sure people are connected to the right folks.
I can also say too, I know that when we did have a kind of general customer EV rebate, one of the things we did, I saw a comment in the chat talking about how dealers will just mark it up to equal the rebate. And when we did it, there were only, really a few EVs on the market, and we did a kind of a bulk purchase. So we negotiated prices with the dealers beforehand, and then had them just display those prices when they were part of the program. I got my first EV through the program. It was really great. They just had like a table like, hey, here's your prices, here's what you're gonna pay. Very simple. But it was a lot of work to work with those dealers.
I didn't know if you had anything to add, Paige, to that question.
Feel like same thing here. So thank you for sharing, guys.
The next, there was a couple of pages kind of directed to you and not so much a question, but I'm going to try to reform it as one. A couple of people in your territory were kind of, I think, enamored by the app that MCE has, and we're wondering when or are you even thinking about doing something similar?
Yeah, we are, which is exciting. And it's really neat to see other CCAs that already have these apps up and going will probably be coming to you for insights. We're looking at launching our own kind of DR program and app in the next couple months to years, depending on just our staff and the timeline that we even that we'll be able to establish. But it is something that's definitely on our radar because that off-peak charging and is so important, as well as having a really accessible way to reach our customers and give that information. So it is on our radar and we are working diligently towards it, but unfortunately we just don't have anything to present on that quite yet.
Thank you. Another questioner, after noting that the workplace charging program is great, and followed on with is there an effort to identify workplaces specifically that employ all or more, disproportionately more low-income workers?
Yeah, for sure. That's something that's been in our mind and was really, a goal here. can't just go to a workplace and, ask them to, divulge the, income of their employees or, what they're making. But, we thought about, reaching out to sites that employed more, shift workers or service workers. I think typically in the past, these things have been like the CEO has their Tesla and like really wants to get, charging for the, their parking spot. And yeah, what we're looking for is really to get sites to go bigger, so that it's not just the, one or two spots, but, they're avoid people going out and switching their cars in the middle of the day. And yeah, I think, as I said, we really have to go to a no upfront cost option to get some of these places that, might not be the company that identifies themselves as a sustainability company, and is willing to throw this money out. But yeah, it has folks at all levels of the income scale.
Okay, this next question is a bit of a long one, so great if you've already had a chance to read it. In my attempt to abbreviate it here just a little bit, CARB is currently updating its guidelines for the Community Air Protection Program. And one of those categories is a local agency partnership projects. A SLO County APCD is considering recommending CARB to allow area districts to partner with CCAs to augment the funding for the low income and disadvantaged community rebate programs. Before they make that recommendation, do the CCAs think it could be possible for them to accept these funds and be willing for CARB to claim the emission reduction benefits thereof? And directed at any one of the three of you. Okay, we have our tough question winner.
I mean, I could say I'm not familiar with the program. It's something that we're trying to do is to partner more with community-based organizations on the development of programs. It's kind of the heart of the community needs assessment that we're conducting right now with community-based organizations. And I think the next step beyond looking at needs is actually looking at solutions that are identified by the community.
Yeah, I can add to that. With 3CE, I'm not familiar with that program yet either. However, there is talk about partnering with our local air quality districts to better report criteria pollutants in the way that we calculate emissions avoidance. And so that is kind of the first step with partnering with our air quality districts, and I'm sure additional partnerships shall follow.
Great, thank you. Andrew, we're going to connect you with them later. I need to move on to the rest of the questions. Okay, the next one are POI. I don't know if that was supposed to be point of sale rebates available from IRA now, meaning 2024 as promised. Anyone know?
They are. Yes.
Okay, all right. I know it's a federal
And-
program, but
And I see Beverly's comment in there that the dealer has to have applied or like enrolled in that, and you're right. And hopefully most of them are or have at this point. We've seen good participation so far on our end.
all right. Again, a question for anybody on the panel. How do EV charging incentive programs integrate or synergize with building electrification efforts?
I think that kind of touches on the vehicle to grid, question that was addressed in the main presentation, which is like, are EVs the problem, or could they be part of the solution? And I think it's still really early days to know how that's going to work out. But yeah, certainly having some vehicle to load is a little bit less complicated than putting that power back on the grid. If you have a building that can take advantage of that during the day. But yeah, the charging equipment is still being developed, and it's expensive.
I'll just say from MCE that our EV, we do have EV charging for commercial and multifamily. I am not the expert on that. If you have questions about that, I can connect you with my colleague Joy. for details, but our MCE Sync program is specific to residential customers right now. But we are, thinking about BGI technologies and also thinking about that and how it can apply to how it might apply in the future to commercial and multifamily. But we're not there yet.
Another high up on the tough question list, multifamily housing. How are you, trying to increase the adoption at those, and particularly when many of them are on a shared meter, and then the rates, time of use or not, and all those kind of aspects. Anything you're doing to try to increase the success of charging in multifamily? The question is to all of our panelists.
Yeah, something we've been speaking about with our equity committee here at 3CE is really finding ways to help identify some of these multifamily residents on a shared meter. Given sometimes it's really hard if there are multiple families, but are listed in a single family residence, it's hard to identify that. So while we do offer incentives to electrify multifamily properties that are designated a multifamily, working with CBOs and building those trusted relationships is a really important first step to identifying these areas and these addresses really that could benefit from enhanced electrification and rebates to help address the issue of shared meters.
And didn't know if Brant or Melody wanted to add anything specific.
Yeah, I know our experience is that, and maybe this is similar to 3CE's territory, but multifamily here is pretty, it's kind of fourplexes and, small owners of multifamily housing. And it's a big hurdle for them. And I've heard from a lot of folks that they're not, owners of multifamily housing aren't going to be incentivized until they can't rent out a place unless they have charging, right? Like that's the point where it becomes real. I know that we've worked really closely with PG&E on a direct install program in our territory that really covers all costs, and I think that's what's needed to be able to come in with technical assistance and just cover all the costs for these sites. It also helps if there's like an activist tenant.
Okay, well, we are at our hour. We're at time, and or do we have more time? Because I think
If
I'd
there's
like
more
to sneak in a
questions, we can go,
question.
Laura.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll just sneak in one quick question, and that is, any surprises between when you might have done some market testing with these programs to actual implementation? Hopefully pleasant surprises, but either way, any, what is the top surprise for each of you?
I think for us, it was when we did that map that I showed, bringing GIS into an analysis of program participation has been really interesting to see and like really start to understand which areas are facing additional barriers. And so that was the first time we were able to visualize that. So it was, I don't know if it was a pleasant surprise, but it was just surprising to see kind of this distribution, and it's given us a lot of motivation to start addressing some of the gaps.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was a surprise. I think it's something that we thought we knew, but wanted to see if we were right. But shifting our focus in the EV Instant Rebates program to strong dealer education proved to be really important and helpful for some of the rebate programs where you apply ahead of time. And in my previous life, working with EV rebate programs, you could do outreach to customers and get them interested and excited, and then go to the dealership to purchase a car, and then get to the dealership and the dealer doesn't know what they're talking about. And there, there's a lot of confusion, they get turned away. And so we really shifted to a focus on dealer education and making sure that they had everything that they needed to make the customer experience successful. Has been very helpful and a large part of the success of our EV instant rebates program so far.
Yeah, I think that's a great point about just the partners that you have. I'll say pleasantly surprised on that category. We had a e-bike program that was just for income qualified customers, and that was really successful. And when we surveyed the later, 90+% of the folks still had their e-bikes and were appreciating and using them. And then on the challenging side, I think when we did our Cali VIP program, which is still going, but we just assume that you can give people a really generous rebate and a charger will be built. And I think going back to what Melanie, you were saying about partners, we just realized that we need to be more involved in these things because there's a whole number of reasons that things don't go as planned if you're not involved.
It was a question that I hopefully won't misrepresent, that I'm to kind of summarize and say, have you explored opportunities to leverage either amongst yourselves or other parties, federal or state, on some of these tools, calculators, things that are useful to make it certain when the incentives apply or not, for example?
I'm going to try to not misanswer this question, but just say that there has been an effort amongst different program administrators for EV incentives to collaborate and share best practices and learnings and different things to try to make things easier for customers and help create some efficiencies or some best practices.
Yeah, I think CCAs have been really agreeable to chatting with each other and they've been really helpful. Brant and I met a few weeks ago when we were chatting about equity initiatives for CCAs. So definitely, even beyond just charging infrastructure and incentives, it's always great to connect and learn new ideas as we're all kind of establishing ourselves in this space and continue to explore new options.
Yeah, I think of CCAs as laboratories. And so, sometimes even I'll say, oh, here's what MCE is doing, maybe we can try something a little bit different just to kind of learn something, between that difference. And yeah, really love sharing, we're not competing against each other, but we're competing for success, I guess, if it were.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Both all our speakers, the College Corp Fellows who made this happen, and for everyone who came and joined us today and might be watching this afterwards, please thank you. Please provide us feedback. As I suggested earlier, you have some subjects you'd like to hear about more in the future, let us know that as well. And with that, we are concluded. Thank you.